Hello and welcome to the Old Time Podcast with your host Tony Sixwing and my co-host Laura Quinting, also known as Food Makeup Skin, and this is episode 29.
Happy late Earth Day, guys.
My giving a crap about Earth Day is completely non-existent. Granted, I did like when I was a kid that Cartoon Network and those type of things would always marathon Captain Planet for Earth Day.
I've never watched Captain Planet. What is that? Superheroes?
A mildly entertaining, mildly educational, mildly stupid, mildly fun 90s and 80s kids cartoon that's about saving the environment. You
Oh,
know,
gotcha.
they have earth, heart, wind, air, fire. By your powers combined, I am Captain Planet. And
So we do have a couple of different stories that we wanted to share with you guys today. By the time you guys listen to it, it will be very, very old news, but we are pre-recording, so
yeah, we've figured out that our schedule right now, with the coronavirus and me having a lot of work reduction and Laura's work schedule, pre-recording these is just becoming much easier for us.
yes.
Hopefully, when this
So
is all over, we can go back to live shows.
when our work schedules are more stable and we can actually go back to how things were before this happened.
So yeah,
So the first story that I wanted to share with you guys is price gouging. Now, a lot of people say it's illegal to do, you shouldn't do it, blah blah blah,
it's not illegal.
but then you see small businesses wanting to charge $10 to $20 for hand sanitizer, which, by the way, like if you were to hypothetically make that stuff, and these small businesses, clearly it's not that hard to make if they magically out of thin air just started making this once this thing happened.
Well, what they
So
did was
the,
they said what they did was they went to the distilleries that used to distill whiskey and moonshine and that. And now instead of distilling alcohol to use for drinking and consumption, they've turned their stills over to using it to make high grade alcohol that can be used with aloe to make hand sanitizer.
Right, and the only thing that makes like these small like beauty businesses and crap like that like special with their product is they'll say, "Oh, well, it's locally made, it's handmade. We put like cool scents in it. There's like essential oils in it or shit like that." And I'm like, "It's freaking hand sanitizer. This shit should not be any more than $4."
Well, you have to remember the reason that it was like $4 a bottle at like Walmart is because Walmart was selling it across multiple countries in thousands of stores at millions of bottles. It's counterintuitive, but it's actually cheaper to produce a lot. Once you get to a certain amount, it becomes cheaper to produce more than less.
Right, and I mean that makes sense. Like,
And if they're having a hard time getting revenue together to keep themselves open, and the demand's high and they can't keep up with supply, then the price goes up. Why? Because people
yeah,
will pay it.
that
But
makes sense.
there was one problem with price gouging. Okay, during Katrina, the hurricane 2004, a man went and bought a bunch of generators and went down to New Orleans to try to sell them. Right. Well,
Hmm.
the New Orleans have passed a no price gouging law, so he was told he had to sell them for the same price he bought them in the store out of the back of his car, which actually means he would have lost money because he had to transport and everything else. And some of these people that are selling you this, they're not producing everything themselves. They got to buy all the stuff to make it together. They got to buy the parts to distill. They got to pay the people. And they may be buying the aloe at what you would buy the aloe for and mixing it with the hand sanitizer. So they may be paying what you would normally pay for all the ingredients in the store to make it yourself, and then needing to make some money off that to keep their doors open and take some money home for themselves so they can eat.
Right. I
and
mean,
survive
I'm
this
not
thing.
saying that like this is a bad thing. Obviously, it's great that these small businesses are able to keep afloat. Like one of the
Granted,
businesses that
the guys that try to sell a bottle of hand sanitizer for $200 are assholes.
or the guys that try to buy up like I think in the retail worker confessions there was this dude that like was turned away for trying to sell like what $10,000 worth of merchandise or something.
Trying to return.
Yeah, it was like a bunch of toilet paper, a bunch of hand sanitizer. And honestly, like I agree with the stores, but like that dude could sell that shit fast. Like if he knows people, he could still sell it.
Go on a Facebook resale group. People will buy it.
Like I don't really understand.
Cash.
For real, like
And
they
they will pay you more than what you will get for in the store. You would have gotten for getting your money back in the store. You could actually make money on that deal right now.
exactly as long as you're not trying to overcharge people, he could have that $10,000 worth of merchandise be like $20,000.
Oh yeah. Here's the
But
thing.
like at the same time, people are stupid, and you probably didn't even think about that.
No, because people are stupid. And the fact that everyone is like right now there, I don't know if you heard, but there's a plan in place that's going through Congress right now that would cancel rent and mortgages for the next year. And I believe it would also give everyone over the age of 16 who makes less than $130,000 a year a check for $2,000 every month
And where is
till
this
the end
money
of the
going to
year.
come from?
I don't know. It's never going to pass.
Right. That's what I was saying.
That's too much money spending. Here's the thing: the extra $600 a week if you're unemployed, whatever. We should probably do some sort of for people who still have jobs. They should be getting some extra, for having to go to work and some of their work being down. But I was told I can apply here in my state for partial unemployment for the days I miss, and even if I don't get that from the state, I could possibly still receive the extra federal money.
Really?
Yeah,
Like, you normally work 40 hours. Are you saying you could get supplemental
supplemental
unemployment?
unemployment because I've only been working 24 hours a week.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I heard that it's like a bitch trying to get a hold of anyone from Marvin, though.
Oh, it's a bitch to try to get supplemental unemployment too, especially right now. They don't want to pay it out to
Um,
anybody.
I think that what I heard was I recently. So I'm in a budgeting group, and they were saying that they're actually doing like rebates or credit towards people's car insurance bills for like less driving, and it doesn't even matter if it's like um you're driving less or more, because obviously some people are driving more with like
I'm,
merchandising, having to go to work, stuff
mm-hmm.
like that. But they're not taking into account mileage unless you actually like change your physical plan. Obviously, a lot of people aren't doing that. They're just asking like, "Hey, is there any way that we could take some money off the bill?" Which a lot of companies are actually doing. Like
Okay, yeah,
mine, which is State Farm. I actually gave them a call, and they said on either my May bill or my June bill, they'll be cutting it by like 20%.
yeah. But here's the thing too, though. I go to work every day still, okay. But yesterday, around noon, when I normally get on this road that I take for work, it's normally packed with cars. I mean, like it comes in waves, like dead
Yeah.
for a second, then another wave. There was nobody on either side of the road for a couple miles. And then I saw a few cars, but it was nothing like what used to be. And gas is so cheap, they're having to pay people because the demand's so low and they lowered the price so much. They're having to pay
Pay
people
people.
to take the. They're having to pay. Oil companies are having to pay people to take delivery of the oil because they have nowhere to put it.
Oh my gosh. I think gas was like a dollar
Gas was a dollar
60.
$1.33 when on my way home.
Well, I live in a fairly populated area, so
So do
they seem to be
I.
price gouging that.
Well, I
Because
live in a
like
fairly
surrounding,
populated. There's 330,000 people in my county.
well, right, but I mean like surrounding areas, like only a 10-mile difference is like $1.30. So like that's a
Oh
big
yeah.
difference.
Oh, there's price gouging. I mean, it's like those like in New York, they unionized a bunch of and upped the minimum wage on a bunch of car washes a while back. There was a Stossel special on it, and they tried to say, well, it hurts them because now they can't make any money. It's like, how about this one? The greedy asshole who owns those places, and if you notice, all these people who they interviewed who were all greedy and all happy that the price went up because now they can install this and fire all their employees and make more money, they all had Eastern European kind of Russian accents.
Hmm.
It's like, I hate to stereotype people, but every one of them you interview has the same accent and has the same attitude. Um, yeah, kind of hard not to stereotype when literally everyone you see is that way.
Right. Yeah, I can see that.
But here's the thing: the guy said, "Well, we can't be competitive if we do exterior and interior." It's like you already admitted that the guy will pay extra for the extra detail on the car, but he's saying they won't if you up the price. Why don't you up the price for a little bit and see how your business does? If you keep having your business, even with the higher prices, because these people care about the vehicles and are willing to pay that price, before you just lay people off and go all external, no internal cleaning, and all automated. This more sounds to me than making money. It sounds like they were waiting for an excuse to lay off their workers.
Yeah.
That's what it explains to me. Because as a business owner, what I would do is see, hey, I've got an opportunity to raise my prices. Because here's the thing: no one wants to raise their prices at the grocery store. You haven't seen prices go up very much, but the packaging has shrank.
Yeah, and people don't really realize that because they're like, oh, well, prices are the same. Maybe I just ate more than I did before.
Nope, they changed the box so the box is just as tall, but more fit in the shelf because it's thinner.
Right.
So there is less in the box, and that's how they keep the price down. So prices have gone up. They just hide it from the consumer. You see, businesses are afraid to increase prices, so they hide it from the consumer. And then greedy businesses like McDonald's, where they can make the same amount of profit and pay everyone $15 an hour minimum wage by increasing, let's say, the Big Mac by like 30 cents. They say that's going to cost you $20. No, that's them saying, yeah, go ahead and raise it, and we're going to price gouge the shit out of everyone and blame the employees for wanting a higher wage. Because you noticed up in Michigan when everyone went to 11.50, it didn't go to $10 for a Big Mac. The meal went up like a quarter.
Right.
Everything went up by like a quarter on the price, and they were still hiring plenty of people and making plenty of profit. So it's not. So if business would just not be greedy and try to declare that they're going to jack up the prices so high no one can afford anything in order to keep labor costs low, which they get labor costs to go down only via inflation all the time because they don't give people raises with inflation. So the price of labor goes down every year due to inflation.
Right.
So even to me, I got a 2% raise at the beginning of last year. With a 2.4% increase in inflation, I still lost 0.5% of pay. So the buying power of my dollar means that I am still making less this year than I did last year after the raise with inflation. I mean, it's more than I would have had. It's better than nothing. But saying it's better than nothing is just an excuse. It's more of a,
Right.
don't complain, it's better than nothing. I'm like, yes, complain, because the thing is, no one complaining has made it to a better. You gotta say better than nothing, and you realize that because you're not gonna get enough people to complain. It's kind of worthless to fight it, and then you end up joining all the people who say, "Oh, don't complain. It is what it is." unfortunately, that is kind of how things go.
Right.
But I also saw this, but like I said, that whole $2,000 a month through the rest of the year, I can kind of see the pausing and even forgiving some of the mortgage and rent stuff, keep people from being homeless, because homelessness does breed more disease and crime and whatnot. But on the same thing, they're not going to give us a monthly check of $2,000. I
No,
mean,
and also,
in a previous podcast, I think I did the math when we were talking about, that Andrew Yang, I believe we were talking about in a really early episode.
I don't remember talking about him.
We may or may not have. Okay. But he had this universal basic income.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I remember.
And I calculated the cost of this. And we're talking about trillions of dollars per month.
Well, even with like the
At a
600, I don't
thousand.
really know how they are not run out of money by now. Like, unless they're printing more.
They're printing it and borrowing it.
Because, like, and also it's not even getting to everyone. Like, the process is so long. My one friend, she had to go on unemployment because they cut her hours so much that it wasn't worth her going to work.
Well, my work, we just found out that in June they're going to be furloughing a ton of people at a fellow facility that's a few miles down the road.
Hmm.
And with how much the thing is, my company's fighting to keep people working, and all of us are pretty much like, just furlough us already so we can apply for unemployment because we cannot deal with this uncertainty. Because most of us have
Right.
have enough of a little bit of savings here and there that if you add an unemployment check to it, yeah, it'll drain, but we'll be able to rebuild those when we get the back pay of the extra $600 of federal for those weeks, that we were unemployed. Because they said that though it didn't get paid till May 1st here in Indiana, it would be retroactive. So you would right off the bat get like $2,400 for the previous weeks. Now, granted, unemployment does have a 1099 uh, taxes. You'll get a 1099 for taxes when you're on unemployment.
Right.
So you have higher taxes on employment. But still, with that being said, all of us are like, lay us off now. Don't play games. Even my supervisor's like, I'd make more on unemployment, even with the extra taxes. So it's like, well, I mean, yeah, you got to put some of it back for taxes, but as long as we get back to work relatively soon and that sort of thing, you can make more money on the unemployment and just remove the taxes. Put the taxes in your savings account and toss it out. Because even after I take taxes out, I'd still make more money, bring home more money a week than I do right now when I'm working a full week. And right now I'm only working 3 days a week.
Right.
So that's...
So are you thinking of like working but then just getting the supplemental, or how's that working?
How this week goes, I'm going to keep working and I'm going to see about applying for... If we have another 2 days shut down this coming week, I will, at the end of this week, apply for unemployment for those 2 days. It doesn't cost anything to apply, and worst comes to worst, I get denied. But according to what I've heard, if you get any sort of unemployment, and if you qualify for unemployment, no matter how, if it's supplemental or regular, you're supposed to still get the extra $600 from the federal government.
Okay.
So whether or not I actually get money from the state, I could still get money from the federal. But who knows if that's hearsay or not. There's a lot of rumors going around right now.
Yeah.
Because no one knows what's going on. And really, in high school, they should have taught us about different types of unemployment, how to apply for unemployment, how to apply for jobs, how to budget, life skills.
Stuff that like people actually give a shit about.
I'm sorry. But you do not need 12th grade English class, which is just reading books and making book reports.
The English composition, you mean, when we had to read like poetry and shit?
Yeah, we did not need that class.
No. I would fair to say that personally, anything after like Algebra 2 is not that important.
Yeah, algebra 1 and 2 are pretty important because you can use them in your everyday life to project your income
Right. No, I was
and
saying
and deal with
more,
stuff. But in
like
geometry, you
pre-calc and shit is
you don't
not
need
that.
pre-calculus, you don't need calculus, you don't even really need trigonometry. You do need geometry in case you ever need to like help remodel your house or something or build something.
Yeah.
Anytime you put anything together and need to use a measuring stick to put together a few pieces of wood, geometry becomes very important.
Unless you are going for engineering, computer science, or math,
Just so you
you are
guys know,
probably not going to need those higher maths.
even if you're going into school for computer programming, there's a difference between programming function and mathematical function. And while math is entailed in some computer stuff, most of it you don't even actually need algebra because the equations are different than what you would use if you were doing stuff, unless you're doing like electrical computer engineering, like where you're designing circuit boards and you have to know electricity and stuff. Then I can see the higher levels math, but basic programming and repair and programming of networks from my education when I was in college, I did not use most of the math that they tried to teach me in high school. But I
No.
am proud to say yesterday, I took down a piece of paper while I was in the back of my place trying to figure out how much of something I was taking off a shelf. I didn't have a calculator on me. I didn't want to run up. So I real quick did long division. And it took me
Hmm.
less time than it would take me to run up and do it. Remember, guys, math is useful. That's why memorization on math is useful and why Common Core is bullshit. Because if I
Mm-hmm.
had to do it with Common Core, it's essentially trying to teach you to where you have to use a calculator.
Right.
Apparently, I have someone who's at work whose granddaughter is in 4th grade, and they aren't even teaching them how to write their names
Why not?
because they aren't teaching kids how to write anymore. They think everyone can type everything, so why teach handwriting?
That's so stupid.
Yeah, these kids today are doomed. They're kind of fucked.
I agree. So the next story that we have is, so if you guys have heard in the news, they and Trump disagreed on this, but because he's kind of taking it out of his hands and giving it to the governors and saying, well, I personally don't agree, but like it's out of my hands, do whatever the fuck you want. Georgia's governor is actually saying that he wants most shit opened like within the next couple of days.
Yeah, open stuff up, but be smart about it.
Because, like, they were thinking of opening, like, dine-in, theaters, like, basically anything and everything that's non-essential. They're thinking of opening back up.
Okay, here's the thing. And I made a comment on a YouTube video about the governor of New York saying stuff about well, he was saying stuff about opening up, not opening up. Everyone stay at home. You need to stay at home. Blah 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 blah. And he continued to do that. And someone asked him about people who need money now because they are not receiving unemployment checks yet. Like, what is he going to do? Because people need to go to work. People need to pay the bills. He's like, well, it's just a few days by. She's like, these people don't have a few days. And then he goes on to essentially tell them, well, if you need money, go get a job as an essential worker. Here's the problem with that. These people would receive more from unemployment based on what they were doing than what they would as getting one of these essential worker jobs. And they would still be out of a house and no food on the table. And the bills still wouldn't get paid. And I try to tell people, here's the thing. There is this an economic collapse. And at a certain point, now I don't think we're there yet. We have not gone over the cliff yet. Granted, the fact that places are still like my work, we're producing components for our customers. Our customers are other factories, so we're a sub-assembly plant. So we make things that go off to other plants to help make bigger things. So, but with that being said, most of the ones that are buying from us aren't making those things right now. They're shut down. They're just stockpiling components. So workplaces like mine will be shut down longer than a lot of other ones because we won't have any work because the companies that we do work for stockpiled our components in case we had to close down. To the point of having months of components on hand. So you could see us shut down for COVID-19 and then months after that because there's still no orders coming in for components.
Right.
And that creates another economic problem. Here's the thing, guys. I remember I read somewhere, I don't remember exactly where I read it, but in the event of a total societal collapse, we would see within the first 12 to 18 months 90% of the human population dead from a combination of starvation, exposure, disease, and fighting over resources that, the general chaos of a collapse, people killing each other. Versus if we did nothing, 2% of people dying from the disease. If we did nothing about it. So, well, it's a horrible choice to have to make. At a certain point, we get to the point where we have to make that decision. Do we risk losing our society and 90% of the human population? Or do we sacrifice 2%? I mean, it sounds horrible. And it is. But reality rarely gives you a morally absolute decision to make. Most decisions in reality are morally ambiguous at best. Bankrupt at worst. Because reality doesn't have a morality. It simply is. And unfortunately, if there is a collapse, we did it to ourselves, not because of the shutdown, but because we built our economy on debt.
Yep.
Everyone borrowed and financed everything, either with credit cards, your car loan, everything. Now, granted, I am as guilty as the next guy at using credit cards and stuff. Granted, I was using them to help out family members and whatnot, and, my intentions were good. I didn't go willy-nilly buy a super huge freaking fancy car on lease that I couldn't afford. So, yeah, including my parents' stuff, I'm like $60,000 in debt or something like that with everything. But granted, most of that is not debt coming out of my pocket because of agreements I have with my parents and the people who actually drive vehicles and whatnot. And student loans were deferred till September. But
which is helpful.
Oh yes, that's very helpful because I was paying $91 a month. That's almost $100 a month that's not coming out of my pocket right now.
Right.
That is ridiculously helpful. But on the same note, there were all these other people who went out, bought a house they couldn't afford, make $100,000 a year, and are $300,000 in debt and growing. And you have to ask yourself, how the hell is anyone lending this guy any more money? Because I try to get more loans, they won't lend to me anymore. I have too much debt. But then I see this other guy over here who makes as much as I do a year, and he's somehow in more debt than I am. I'm like, who the hell did you find to lend to you?
Exactly.
How the hell did you get this much credit? And that is what created the bubble that really is stressing everyone out. Because if everyone stayed on a budget and had their debts paid off and kept themselves out of debt, unless, let's say, they were super low income, hit hard times, and had to go into a little bit of debt, that sort of thing. Don't completely shame. You don't be like, I hate to say this, don't be like Dave Ramsey and shame all debt. All debt is bad. You should pay it off as soon as possible. But there is no shame in something happening where you need to take out a small loan to get by, but have a plan to get out of that debt as soon as possible. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a thing. But what we did was we went and we financed boats, jet skis, McMansions, huge Hummer SUVs. Couldn't afford the fuel for the Hummer, so we put it all on the credit card. Went out to eat every day instead of cooking at home. Granted, I'm guilty of that, but of course, I'm a single guy. It doesn't cost me that much to go out to eat, you know. But for a guy who makes 50, I make about 32, 33, depending on how many hours I work a year. But let's say a family of four, guy makes 50 grand a year. They go out to eat once a weekend. Okay, they're probably spending $80 to $100 on dinner, no matter where they go. Just even the cheapest, because four people, unless you're going to McDonald's, if you're sitting down, you're going to spend money. So here's the thing. So if I'll spend like $10 every weekend or something on just me, but that's me spending $40 a month versus them spending $400 a month. So for three extra people, because it's a family, the family's going to have appetizers and drinks and everything else, and you got to tip the waitress and everything. So you're going to end up spending like 10 times what I spend on me on your family of four, and you end up in debt. It's one thing for like a single guy who doesn't have a whole lot of bills to go out to eat a lot. But if you've got a
Right.
mortgage, debt, and everything else, you shouldn't be going to a restaurant.
No,
And
definitely
you
not.
shouldn't have been in the first place unless you have budgeted for eating out. You have that money set aside and you can
Yeah.
afford it. Then there's no problem with it. The reason I'm in debt is because I tried to help out other people. But there, and yes, some of my debt is my own stupidity. The computer we're recording this on and my audiobooks and stuff, I spent too much money. I shouldn't have spent it. But the vast majority of my debt is from coming to the aid of other people when other people needed a bailout and I had a line of credit, so I used my credit card to take care of it. And that was me trying to be a generous and decent human being. And unfortunately, sometimes that gets you a little screwed over.
Yep.
But what people fail to understand is there's a huge difference between that and the guy who went out and bought 3 speedboats and he only makes 100,000 a year.
Right.
100,000 a year does not make you rich.
It doesn't. And if you have kids, it really isn't that much compared to one person who makes like 30K a year.
Well, yeah. And guess what? If you have kids, you all even really shouldn't have been on a budget because the average child individually from birth to 18 years of age costs $250,000 to raise.
And that's like on the cheap end. Some people spend like 1 million.
I said average. So that's, you take all the super expensive, all the low end, and you add them together and divide it by how many you looked at.
Yeah.
So averages are not exact science. Some is cheaper, some is more. But it's a good round number to estimate stuff around when it's talking about cost. Granted, when you talk about income as a metric, average is not a good way to move it because income affects the economy differently. You should look at not what the average American works, but what the typical American earns. So instead of adding everyone together and dividing it by the number of working Americans, they should see what percentage makes this, what percentage makes this, and do it that way. Instead of saying the median income or the middle income is $50,000, except the typical income is $30,000. And that's where that whole thing kind of collapses. I think I've done the mind experiment with you where you say there's 3 people, 2 have no money, 1 has $3 billion, so the average person has $1 billion. Problem is 2 people actually don't have any money.
Hmm.
So you get where that thought process comes. Because that's math. If people could do simple math, we wouldn't be in this problem. This situation would have never happened if people could do math and learn not to trust a Chinese communist government.
Yeah, that's true.
Granted, some senators introduced a bill that would allow Americans that have been adversely affected financially from the coronavirus to sue the Chinese government.
Hmm. I heard that American scientists are not allowed to go to China and test the origins of corona.
Yeah, because it came out of a damn lab and it's probably an escaped bioweapon.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, everyone's saying it came from this. Even my one buddy at work was really surprised. Like, no, that's conspiracy theory. It was already in the population. I'm like, where it was found, where everything was, the timing of it, things kind of, and the latest U.S. intelligence, which suggests it came out of that lab. Yeah, just because the virus originated originally in bats does not mean this, or snakes does not mean this outbreak came from a bat to one human. From all we know, it came from a bat to a lab to a human. I mean, originally it was a bat coronavirus, but it was being studied in that lab where there were concerns about security. Kind of suspicious, you know?
Hmm.
And of course, we have some people in the government that actually want to destroy the economy because they think that's a way for them to win the next election.
That's a stupid mentality.
Well, the Democratic Party once did say at one point that they hoped that there would be another recession because they thought that was the only way they could get the presidency away from Donald Trump.
I don't think that Joe Biden has much of a better chance, though. You okay?
But yeah, I get this thing where my nose stuffs up and then I get all hacky.
Oh, okay.
But here's the thing: Biden is unelectable. His
What
nickname
do you
is
mean?
Pedo Joe, and he quite frankly definitely has dementia. Anyone who votes for that guy should. I hate to say it, but I feel like the stupidity and not looking into things kind of is an argument for forced sterilization.
Hmm.
You know, when people are so stupid, you're like, please, can we make it where this person can never breed?
Yeah. See, I don't read up enough about Joe to know too much of what he believes and what he doesn't
What
believe.
if you look at him? He's always sniffing little children.
I've never seen this.
Yeah, there are many pictures of him smelling young girls,
Hmm.
like pedo smell, like he's sniffing their necks and their hair.
Like, there's actual
There was photos
photo
of him.
evidence?
There's photos of him doing it at rallies. I have seen them,
Hmm.
and also he doesn't remember where he is or what year it is half the time, and he gets his sister and his wife confused. Though that may be because they have a weird, threesome incestuous thing going on, and he might
Oh
just
my
get them confused in
god.
bed. Hey, they are politicians. Would you put it past them?
I don't know what they do in their free time.
None of my business. But it was a joke that could be said because of that thing.
Yeah.
Oh, here's one. A guy. It's got. I found this meme. It's Hulk Hogan versus another guy. It says it has me in the middle. Okay, I want a clean fight. Winner gets to ruin my day. Hulk Hogan is my depression. The other one is my anxiety.
Oh god.
That's funny.
Mm. I don't. Hulk Hogan's kind of weird to me.
It's an old photo from the WWE when it was the WWF.
Oh yeah, and how the WWE like I was looking
They had to
at
change their name because of some legal shit.
the movie, the one with like The Rock and Jason Statham, is it? I
Okay.
think. Yeah, so they were in a movie together, and they had this other dude in the movie. Like they ended up going to, I guess, something Hobbs. Well, anyways, they ended up going to this island that the Rock used to live in. Like he was, being a different character, obviously.
Yeah.
But they put this other dude in, and he happened to be not per se related to The Rock, but like he knew him where like the WWE, it seems like it's a generational thing for certain like heritages and races to do WWE, because obviously The Rock isn't like completely white, if you hadn't noticed.
No, he's not.
But
I never thought he was even white. I thought he was Hispanic.
you thought he was Hispanic?
Well, I mean, with the way his face is built, and either Hispanic or Hawaiian or something like that. Some form of
He's
native to Latin American
he's not
heritage.
Hawaiian. I think he's a part islander of some
Well,
island.
you
But
know what I mean. Like some sort, you know what I mean, though. Something
oh
in the
yeah,
Hispanic, Hawaiian, Islander. The American, South and Northern Native American, because even Hispanics are actually a mixture of Native American and Spanish increment immigrants from
yeah,
the, so they're also native. So we call them all, but they are all of native descent. But yeah, no, I knew he wasn't white.
right.
Who
It's
looks at
easy
The
to
Rock and says
tell.
that's a white guy? He's an awesome dude, but he ain't a white guy. Vin Diesel is a white guy.
Right, it is.
But here's the real thing that I believe is happening right now. Due to the shutdown and economic impact, all of the demons of our society are being laid bare in front for everyone to see and everyone to try to find out a way to make things better. If you notice, all the bullshit they've been throwing down our necks that turned out to be bullshit is showing itself as bullshit right now. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
Like they said, you have to work 40 hours a week in this office to do this job. Now all those people are working from home.
When a lot of them were old as shit and probably should have been home to begin with.
Yeah, now they're all working from home. My uncle is working from home. Then they'll say, well, we can't make sure you're actually working for the time we pay you for. Hello? Most of those office jobs that can be done from home are salary based. You know,
Right.
you get paid so much every month for that work. And even in an office, they did a study or something. Most people can get all their week's work done in these offices if they're not in a super huge managerial role in the first 2 days, if that. So they spend probably 70% of their workday goofing off and pretending to be busy. And all the time, the company is paying for that office space, for the lights, for the manager to be there right next to them. When they could have just had the guy work from home. Then the guy wouldn't have had to go through the traffic jam and everything else to come to an office that he hates, to be with coworkers that he hates, to be forced to do a bunch of company shit that he hates, to be yelled at by a bunch of redundant management that wouldn't even have jobs if all these people were working from home.
Well, I feel like to an extent, being in an office, I don't know if it's just like my take on it, but I feel more motivated to work
Here's the
when,
thing.
you know.
If you're saying that, oh, they won't get the work done, they won't be motivated enough, fine. The ones who don't get the work done, fire them.
Oh my god, Tony.
It's true, though. If you don't do your job, you get fired. It's perfectly
Right.
fair. It actually costs companies more money to have people work in the office than from home. And I'm pretty sure a lot of companies are going to catch on to that as a way to cut costs. They're going to move everyone to work from home as a way to cut costs. Because if you realize when they realize how much money they're spending on the office space, when these people don't even really need to be in this building because they don't, they aren't dealing with customers or something like that. There's no reason. You can get a much smaller office space that you have a few executives come to every day so they can have meetings, and you can say, okay, on this day, these employees need to come in from their homes to this much smaller office because we don't have to maintain a bunch of cubicles and everything else. You don't need as
Right.
much floor space if everyone's not there all day. All you need is an office with a couple of conference rooms and maybe a receptionist for to take people to their meetings and that sort of thing. But like, okay, the guy at the local insurance agency, when you go in, walk in, sit down, and meet with them, that guy needs to come in to work every day. Because you're meeting with people. But the lowly little accountant who's just taking care of the books that's mostly given to him electronically can do that from anywhere.
Right.
The head of accounting may need to come in once in a while to make a presentation about what's going on in the accounting department. And then they say, oh, well, then you can't just walk over and ask him stuff. Well, everyone's supposed to be working at the same time. There's conference calling. Seriously. We could save people a ton of money, a ton of headache, and kept a lot of stuff from people from getting infected in the first place if everyone that could have worked from home worked from home.
Exactly. I agree with that.
But they say you got to come into work because companies are overreaching, authoritarian. They just want to control your life. It's the same reason that it's stupid that even when cell phones weren't smartphones where they'd be like a distraction, like you're playing on Facebook instead of getting work done, they wouldn't let cell phones on the floor of a factory or something and called it's for safety reasons. If there's an emergency, they have to call through the office. Yeah, no, they do that so you can declare that you don't believe it's an emergency, not tell me, and then I don't get to find out until I get home because you want me to stay there working. Because what you call an emergency and what I call an emergency are not always the same thing. You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, you have to come into work for work that does not require your physical presence that can be done from anywhere. That is just an excuse to control you.
I do think, though, I don't agree with the teaching style right now. It's very,
Teaching cannot be. Here's the thing. I am proof that teaching online is a bad idea.
I mean,
Kids,
I will
most
say,
people learn best by one-on-one, hands-on instruction.
right. But I will say technology is making it a little bit better than what it could be. Like, I have used Zoom multiple times to
I
do
won't use
some,
Zoom.
like,
I won't use Zoom for
Bible
anything.
readings.
I won't use Zoom for anything because it's partly owned by Huawei, the Chinese company that is pretty much owned by the Chinese Communist Party.
Well, so is TikTok, and everyone uses that.
And I don't use TikTok.
You don't use most social media stuff. You live under a rock, and I have to tell you most things.
Yes, I live under a rock, people. It is peaceful under my rock. There are less
Oh, I
idiots
have
here.
I have a random fact for you guys because we've been kind of doom and gloom about things during this episode.
I'm
But
always doom and gloom in every episode, by the way.
um, so recently discovered this U.S. company called It's a Bodega. One second, and they are in Denver, Colorado, and they sell international goods. So I found out yesterday that they import. Chinese potato chips, which I really, really want to try because they have flavors such as cherry blossom and lychee sparkling water, lactobacillus soda, and white grape soda.
White grape soda.
Like in a potato chip, yeah. I
Bleh.
really want to try the cherry blossom one. And I don't know
Are you
what
talking about?
lychee is.
Are you talking about weird Japanese snack flavors?
Like these are Lay's potato chips, but they're like imported from China.
They sound like they're imported from Japan. Okay, everybody, just so you know, if you want a weird flavor of anything, order it from Japan. They will mix everything in every snack food.
Yeah, they eat like bean soup and like eat like basically anything and everything.
Yeah, you will never find weirder flavors than in a Japanese snack food store.
Or another flavor that they have, which is kind of weird, is crayfish. Yeah, it says that they're from China, so they have a crayfish flavor Lay's that's spicy, a cucumber flavor, a fried crab, which actually that kind of sounds southern almost for a potato chip flavor, and then a numb and spicy hot.
Okay, here's this thing. There's a thing called Japan Crate. Have you ever heard of it?
Um, I probably got something similar to it, yeah.
If you go into an FYE, you can usually get a box from Japan Crate. And
Oh wait,
every
I think I did get that. Yeah, they had
yeah,
that, and then they had like a noodle one too, right?
yeah, but you can I think that's ramen crate. Yeah, maybe we should, if we got time, maybe we should. We're actually running low on time. Maybe we should make another podcast real quick about weird snacks.
Yeah, like we can say it's a continuation of this episode.
Okay, so this is part one. We'll see you next week with part two. What we're
Next
gonna,
week.
yeah, next week, unless you want me to release this one day after the next.
Oh, right, yeah.
We're pre-recording.
But I thought you meant like we were gonna do this next week, and I was like, "What are you talking about?"
No, I'm talking to the fans. Yes, fans.
Okay.
We talk about weird stuff about the scheduling while we're on the air. Yes, everything is an open book on the Overtime Podcast Show.
Yeah, we don't hide anything.
Yeah, we don't hide how much of a clusterfuck our production is.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next episode, though.
Yep, see you guys next week. Have a good one. Stay safe and stay healthy.